Here's my review of Gen V Episode 1. First things first, just like The Boys, this is very graphic, very R rated, but also very endearing, and that's what the show does most of all. Even though, like, when you think of The Boys, like, you think of all the blood and the gore, but, like, it's really about the characters themselves that make this show so good. Like, all the violence is just the cherry on top. But basically, we follow Maria Monroe in going to Godolphin University, and basically just think of this show as basically an R rated Sky High. But I mean, Marie is a very interesting character because her powers are just really terrifying and tragic. Where she's able to control blood, and since we know, like, from the boys that like they have to be injected with Gen V or Compound V in order to get it. I mean, she was done it, and she was injected at a very young age, and she finds out in a pretty brutal way. I mean, she finds out when she's just a little girl. I mean, like only at 12 years old, she finds out and she accidentally kills her parents with her blood. And it is horrifying. It is one of those things yeah, the gore is there for like the shock value, but it also is there for like the actual like horror. Like what would this actually be like? And yeah, it is terrifying. Like, yeah. Just like the boys, you know from like the first like 5-10 minutes that this show very, very gory. And it is very fun. And when she's at this college, Godolphin University, we'll also meet her roommate Emma, who's basically just Ant Man. And there are some very interesting things that you see with her, but I'm not going to explain any of them. But it is really cool, like her with this little rat, and the CGI is really, really good. Like I have to give them major props to this. Like the CGI is basically flawless in this show. But over the course of this first episode, you kind of like sense that something's off about this school. Like something's pretty off. Like you see some kids like get arrested like by this SWAT team and like taken away and you don't really know what's going on. And it kind of gives you a sense of horror, which is one of the things like I really liked about this show. Well, at least this first episode. Another really cool thing is like when you see how she has to use her powers, like how she learns, she goes to the gym, she like has to make sure that she like cuts herself in order to like shoot blood out, which is just it's really like horrifying. And like it's interesting to have like a power that's so unique, but you do have to harm yourself in order to get it. It's kind of like an interesting trade-off. And another character that we meet is Luke, who you think is going to be a main staple of this, but you kind of know something's off. And basically, he kills the principal. And it's kind of a long story because she was originally going to be kicked out for saving the girl, even though she did do the right thing. But, like, they don't really want the bad press, and she was going to get kicked out. And then later she goes back and walks in on Luke killing the principal. And after that, I mean, he kills himself, actually, just by exploding. Like, because he has, like, fire powers or whatever, some sort of explode. I don't really get what they are exactly. But, I mean, and that's kind of how the episode ends, and it ends on this image. So, yeah. Very, very gory, but very, very fun. But yeah, overall, what made this show so good, it's not about the gore, though. It's not about all the violence and the raunchiness. But it's really about these characters. Like, yeah, it's fun seeing all the action. It's fun seeing the gore. It's fun seeing the horror. But it's really the characters that are just so endearing. Like, you have a character that is, like, gone through such horrifying trauma at, like, only 12 years old. And you kind of, like, see, how does she deal with that? Like, she's kind of socially awkward a little bit. That's why she kind of maybe is kind of connecting to Emma so much because it looks like it was really her first friend, this roommate. And just really, it's really about the characters. Like I said, you care about them. And yeah, I loved the action. I love the characters. I love the horror vibe. At least I got some horror vibes because of the like kind of like government like people taking some of the kids away, and you're gonna get to learn more about that, taking them to the woods. But yeah, that was probably my favorite part personally. But yeah, overall, it's just really great. I just loved these characters, and I thought that this was an amazing first episode.